Раз. Уважаемые коллеги, мы начнем 7-минутной задержкой, вероятно. Обращаю ваше внимание, что при входе можно взять гарнитуру для перевода. Будет параллельный перевод. Пожалуйста, не забывайте взять девайсы.
Доброе утро. Good morning. We are now starting a workshop on decarbonizing transport with natural gas in the European region. Before we formally open, let me just tell you quickly that our program today starts now. We'll have several speakers that talk mostly about the global picture, and then we'll make a short coffee break. We'll announce speakers as they come. And after the coffee break, we'll more focus on the countries covered by this project, and then we'll jointly discuss some lessons and for countries and encourage some exchanges of experiences. So without further ado, I would like to open formally this, and for that I would like to give the floor to the chair of the group of experts on gas, Mr. Francisco de la Flor Garcia. Good morning, Madrid. Can you hear us?
Today. Yes, can you hear me?
We hear you.
Okay, thanks, Franco. I said good morning on behalf of the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe and its group of experts on gas. I welcome you all here at the forum and online to the workshop Decarbonizing Transport with Natural Gas, held under the project Improving Capacities of UNEC member states to decarbonize the transport sector by increasing the use of natural gas as motor fuel, generously funded by the Russian Federation. The use of gas in transport is an important theme for the gas industry, for our industry. It has been recognized as such by most UNEC member states, and the Committee on Sustainable Energy, the parent body of the group of experts on gas, that I have the honor to chair. In the past few years, the use of gas in transport has been one of the pivotal activities of my group. We recognize and advocate that the compressed natural gas and liquefied natural gas are providing and will provide significant environmental and economic advantages that make them a serious alternative to diesel and fuel oil, and in light of heavy-duty road and maritime transportation. As we often point out, increasing the share of gas in transport may help decarbonize it. No, it helps decarbonize it, clear the air, and achieve a range of other socio-economic goals of the UN 2030 agenda. Our group keeps bringing attention to the committee and the UNEC member states to these developments and facts. Last month, at its 30th session, the committee, noting the progress in implementation of the project, recognized the importance of the common principles and recommendations stemming from it, such as to rate transport transition to energy transition, to differentiate segments of the transport sector, and to harmonize technical regulation among different countries. Of course, the UNEC group of experts on gas is aware that CNG and LNG currently command a small share of the transportation fuel market. We are trying to change it. In 2017, we drafted a report on removing barriers to the use of natural gas as maritime transportation fuel. In 2018, we published a case study from Spain on small-scale LNG and truck loading. My country, Spain, is a leading of the use of natural gas, particularly in LNG. We do hope that the more than 50 years Spanish experience in the LNG truck loading, with probably close to 1 million of operations, might provide some food to countries such as Croatia, Greece, Italy, Lithuania, Poland, or any other EC member states looking to decarbonize this transport by increasing LNG truck loading capabilities. The Unece group of experts on gas is now working closely with principal stakeholders to disseminate our previous work. We closely monitor technical, environmental, and economic developments in the use of compressed natural gas and LNG in transportation. We organize policy dialogues on the barriers in the use of CNG and LNG in transport and develop policy recommendations in this regard. And we also have to implement the project from which today's workshop has been funded. So without further ado, welcome again. Thank you for your attention. I look forward to a productive and interesting discussion. Let me show finally what in my iPad I'm using this just to promote the G-mobility with CNG and LNG. So, spasibo, thanks a lot, and I hope we have a very productive day. I'm sure that we will achieve. Thanks, back to you, Branko.
Thank you, Mr. De La Flor. Well, gas is lately very expensive, so maybe it's a bit difficult to use it as a fuel, but we'll hear more about that later. Now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Ivan Sergeyevich Ivanov, Deputy Director General of the Russian Energy Agency. Mr. Ivanov, please take the floor. Tribune.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I would like to welcome all the participants. Thank you all for participating, for finding time, and to continue the topic touched upon by my colleague, I would like to say the following. Today, the international agenda contains a lot of issues related to sustainable development and gas markets development, and indeed, this is very much relevant for Russia and for our partners, neighboring countries. For more than 1 year in our country, we have been developing a project which is called gasification programs dissemination. We are addressing SMEs. We would like to ensure a good access for small and medium companies for cheap natural gas. Currently, regulatory documents in this area, which regulate activities in Russia and in international programs, assigns a high priority to natural gas as a fuel of the future. As our colleague has just said, in some countries there are certain economic limitations in using natural gas, but in Russia it's vice versa. It's quite cheap, economically feasible, and environmentally friendly. And by doing this, we will be able to reduce our carbon footprint. So for Russia, natural gas is a very good source of energy. Today, cooperation with our neighboring countries, partners, is a bit complicated, but I would like to say thank you to our colleagues from the UN for these joint studies we are conducting all together, despite all the political differences, we have managed to find points of interest, and we work together to develop the gas motor infrastructure. As far as I know, today, for the first time, we will hear about the results of these studies, so I'm looking forward to hearing all this. Thank you for your attention.
We'll like to invite also the representative of Gazprom, another of the hosts, Mr. Evgeny Znatnov, to please help us open this conference. Mr. Znatnov.
Dear colleagues, good afternoon. Glad to see all the participants interested in the gas motor industry. It's the last day today, so we don't have many participants in the audience, but only those who are not negligent, who are not indifferent, and the contribution of each and every participant is so important. It shows that all our initiatives have long-term prospects. Thus, I would like to say that indeed today we see certain changes happening on the natural gas market. Everybody is concerned and excited. Today, natural gas is a fossil fuel which is capable of addressing different challenges of the global economy and the gas motor fuel sector in particular. What are these challenges? Of course, environmental issues and regulation. The climate agenda, which is dominating in the industry, influences the industry development, actually is different in different countries, but anyway, we're living in one world and global challenges are the same, and we have to give answers to react, and the transport industry itself is the most competitive industry in the world. I think it's quite obvious and clear to everybody. So, control over the cost or better understanding of the proper fossil fuel to be dominating in the industry is, well, it's quite obvious. It should be natural gas, either CNG or LNG. So we understand that in the LNG sector, high tonnage transportation is very important, and maritime shipment is also important. As all we know, different fuels compete with each other, but the ideal answer is a proper mixture of CNG and LNG in transport, because the environmental component of this fuel compared with gasoline and diesel weighs more. And this is a proper response, reaction to the global climate agenda. In 2020, the Volkswagen Group announced about the decision not to use internal combustion engines anymore. 1 year passed, and in June of 2021, colleagues from Volkswagen made a very wise decision. They decided to stay on the market a bit longer and to exit in 2035 from the European market and from the markets of the US and China even later, without giving any particular dates. So it is very significant. It shows that global transportation companies are very hesitant about plunging into this renewable energy sources lake. There are a lot of different economic aspects involved, and we cannot refuse from the tremendous car fleet in one day. So, natural gas is the only proper answer in this uneasy situation. Gazprom is a player of the global gas motor market and of the Russian gas motor market. In both markets, Gazprom is actively participating. My colleagues from Gazprom Gas Motor Fuel will tell themselves about the successful results they obtained in both markets despite coronavirus last year. So, all in all, we are a very good example of a responsible attitude towards the market development. And I would like to note that the progress we're witnessing in the markets of Europe and Russia is quite substantial, and new opportunities which are opened up are used to the maximum by entrepreneurs and businessmen for the development of different transportation sectors and logistics businesses. Germany is another example to the situation. In 2018, in Germany, the cryo fuel station market was just emerging. There were hardly any fuel stations of such a kind, but in a couple of years, the situation has changed. There have been initiatives on electricity and hydrogen. Despite this pressure, over several years, in Germany, they built about 80 cryo fuel stations. So, despite all the regulatory complications and pressure, people do their work, they develop the markets. These fuel stations are operational, and trucks which come to Germany can confirm that this product is demanded, so we should not forget that we live under market conditions, and if the market demands something, we have to provide a supply. So in this regard, a very good example is brought by our colleagues from Italy. They have developed the market to a large extent quite recently, so it's not a developing but well-developed market they have now. So at this session, they will definitely tell us about their success story. I believe that this is a very good example of developing the market of gas motor fuel in Europe, and we can disseminate this successful experience in different countries, different locations. Closing my speech, I would like to say that We do hope that the gas motor fuel market, will not be perceived as a niche market, but will develop into a full-fledged, competitive and green market, which will contribute globally to the relocation of cargo with good economic benefits, with good prospects in terms of environment protection. Thank you, dear colleagues. I believe that today's seminar will provide a good opportunity to exchange ideas, and I wish you all the success in our field.
Thank you very much.
Activities in this field, I would like to show you a few slides to update you on what's going on, so to speak, in the world beyond Russia. Can I advance slides?
Включите презентацию, пожалуйста.
Now, as I mentioned, the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe is a Geneva-based, one of the 5 regional commissions, and we have a number of activities, divisions. The most relevant divisions for this particular workshop is our division, Nadezhda and I work in, which is Sustainable Energy Division, and we also have a long history in transport with various regulations, including vehicle regulations. To begin, I would like to show you this kind of strange slide. It's difficult to understand, at least it was to me, but somehow I figured it out, so I'd like to share this with you. This shows the situation in transport sector in terms of consumption of liquid fuels derived from petroleum. As you can see in the base year, the source of this is the International Energy Agency, so in 2018, we see that the fuel mixture is dominated, the uses of energy in transport is dominated by cars, the yellow and then the orange trucks. Now their projection is what's going to happen in, let's say, 30 years from now. And I should also warn you that this projection were done before COVID. So first of all, they project a significant increase in the overall oil demand for transportation, to go from what was in 2018 about 55 million barrels per day, to go all the way to close to 100 barrels per day. This reflects the population increase and the overall progress in Asia and Africa and elsewhere. Now, the goal is how to go down to something, what they call it stated policy framework or sustainable development policy framework. So the idea is now, knowing that this will go almost to 100 million barrels per day, how we can go down to what, not only to what used to be, but also to significantly go down to meet the needs for decarbonization. So those two scenarios count on two things. First of all, efficiency, the absolute need to increase efficiency, and also they envision a significant role for electrification of transport. You can also see on this third bar on the top that natural gas will play the role in replacing liquid fuels. And this slide, in this sense, is the most important, showing something about 7-8 million barrels of oil equivalent per day, that the scenarios believe that the liquid fuels, gasoline and diesel, will be replaced with gas, with natural gas. However, to reach more ambitious sustainable development scenario, more things are needed. In this scenario, the gas is not really seen as a part of the equation. You can see that electrification also plays an important role, as I said, increasing efficiency, and in this case also hydrogen comes into play, which would eventually bring it down to below $20 billion per day if it all happens. Of course, this is all projection. But in any case, the conclusion is that gas will have an important role in replacing liquid fuels between now and 2050. Why is it so? Simply, there are some, to remind you, I'm sure that most of you know that gas, in this case LNG, has significant advantages over liquid fuels, 20% less carbon, but more importantly, in terms of urban pollution, nitrogen oxides, particulate matters, sulfur oxides are way lower than in the case of diesel and petrol. Because of these reasons, the natural gas is important component and plays a catalytic role in achieving the so-called Sustainable Development Goals. To remind you, these are 17 goals set by the United Nations General Assembly, mostly dealing with socio-economic development. So I don't want to read you all this, but the idea is that the gas will help alleviate poverty, improve health and well-being, clean water, sanitation, create job opportunities, and foster innovation and infrastructure development. In our transport division, what I mentioned, it exists for almost 75 years now. They developed a number of regulations, our colleagues in transport did, that deal or relevant to gaseous vehicles. Practically, these are standards that are set out to car manufacturers to comply with if they want to develop new applications or new vehicles. So regulation number 15 deals with the provision of how to measure emissions. The regulation number 49 actually deals with the idea of controlling emissions or reducing them. Then regulation number 83 deals with fuel requirements. Regulation 110 deals with components for compressed natural gas and liquefied natural gas vehicles. And then UN regulation number 115 deals with the same, more or less, things. So this is more or less what is done at the United Nations 2 divisions. Now my colleague, Ms. Hamkulova, will tell you more about the concrete project, the reason why we are here today, and some of the project deliverables.
Thank you, Branko. Уважаемые дамы и господа, я рада приветствовать.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm glad to welcome you here. With your permission, I'll continue in English.
We are implementing at ECE a project which is called Improving Capacities of its Member States to Decarbonize the Transport Sector by Increasing the Use of Natural Gas as Motor Fuel. This project is funded by the Russian Federation, and it is for 2 years old. Project started in September previous year and covers 14 countries from the Southeastern Europe, Eastern Europe, and Central Asia. The goal of this project is improving the understanding of benefits, how the countries can benefit from using the natural gas in transportation sector as a low-carbon option for them. However, in the longer term, this project hopes to contribute for a bigger goal at reducing pollution from the road transport and thus improving the quality of air, especially in the bigger cities. The project, as I mentioned, started implementation previous year. I invite you to see more information and materials from this project on the ECE website that was created. In December 2020, we had the first webinar, which was discussing the beginning of implementation of this project, and which also gave possibilities for stakeholders to involve in the beginning of these activities under project to discuss how the project can move forward and how the countries can benefit, in particularly from implementation in this sphere. Then, based on these initial discussions, the comprehensive report was prepared on the development of the natural gas vehicles in the 14 countries. We will hear today much more details about this project, about this report. And here we are today now, in October 2021, to hear the findings of this report, to discuss how this report can be beneficial for countries and what can be done as a next step in moving forward from now. Let me just say briefly about the report. The report focuses on natural gas vehicles, as I mentioned, as an alternative for the transport transition. It covers many aspects. It starts from the life cycle analysis on competing fueling options. It also provides the assessment of the current state of affairs, let's say, of the current state of development of the CNG and LNG markets in countries, and also refueling and storage infrastructure. It provides some case studies as successful stories in how in some regions or in some countries the NGV market was developed and is being developed also. It provides also the analysis of safety requirements for fueling stations in the countries. It touches upon the public opinion, what are the perceptions on the use of natural gas in countries. That, as I said, is the starting point on improving the understanding on the use of natural gas in countries. As a result of this research, the report provides recommendations and policy guidelines on how countries can move forward from removing their existing barriers and what are those barriers also, and how they can actually implement certain actions, certain recommendations to develop further and the potential and perspectives for the NGV markets in their countries. Without further ado, I would finish my part here, and I would probably give possibility for the next speaker to speak more about this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadezhda. Now we are moving to our next segment, which deals with the use of gas in the world. So, more technical part. I will give the floor to our expert, Mr. Zenin, who will then explain what was done in this project in terms of recommendations to member states, and then he'll introduce other technical experts.
Okay, yeah, Branko, thank you very much. If you don't mind, I will use a Tribune and switch to Russian in my report. Уважаемые коллеги, да, позвольте...
Dear colleagues, allow me to present my speech in Russian, because this venue enables us to concentrate on the very essence of those important things and to delegate the right of translation to professionals. I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to this venue, which is very expedient and helpful in arranging this event, and extend my heartfelt thanks to Gazprom company to support this high-token event. In my presentation, I'm not going to retell you every page of the report we're referring to, but I would like to emphasize, first of all, some structure and general rationale and reasoning which is behind this work, and to highlight certain bullet points which are especially relevant for this audience. The project is also about the fact that we should take on board best practices in the development of this market for countries which are in the perimeter of this project. It's Southeast Europe and some of the CIS countries, each one of those having their own specificity and peculiar characteristics. But the report in its structure, on the one hand, has got very broad frameworks, because we also refer to the fact how natural gas can be very expedient for us to achieve sustainable development goals. And also, it's possible to make consolidated analysis of LCA for different types of fuels to compare their characteristics to come to a conclusion how we can reach environmental ecological goals to use different alternative fuels. We did detailed work on each one of those respective countries, and I recommend you to get to the text of the report, which is available on Unece website. In that report, you'll see different profiles on each of the countries, which, on the one hand, analyze the current situation and transformations in the transport sector by different countries and the prerequisites for more growth and constraints of social, economic, and geopolitical and geographical nature. And otherwise, for each country, specific conclusions and guidelines are provided, so that it will become crystal clear how the sector would develop and what would be the role of natural gas in that. There was also analysis of technical regulations and those requirements which are set forward for the safety and security of infrastructural facilities and transportation vehicles per se. That was a vast work done, which makes us think that the report which we're referring to is only the first stage of our work. We've got a lot of more work in store for you, especially mindful of safety and security and standards of security for gas filling stations, safety of vehicles. We should harmonize all those issues. And that would be the future work, which we do now. We did public opinion poll, and we searched the opinion of experts from each country, and we'll present you with this as well. And we studied specific projects, guidelines, video materials on awareness raising about natural gas as NGV. During coffee break, you'll get to know more of it. That is also a very interesting directional work, and it's necessary to mention it because this is an indispensable component in our work. I will not dwell in great details upon the global frameworks and interrelationships between natural gas and SDGs, but to reconfirm what my colleagues said in the beginning and what Branker mentioned in the presentation, natural gas nowadays is the only tool which expedites us to achieve differently directed SDGs. Transportation sector transformation is not confined to decarbonization alone. It's not the only process which is on our agenda in transport sector. Also, economic and social goals are there for us, which is very important. So mindful of transformations in transportation sector, we should not oversee such facts as availability and affordability of this transport, capping tariffs for passenger transportation, and so on. When we look at it from this position of well-balanced goals and tasks in sustainable development, without any doubt, natural gas has got unique properties because that way we can abate hazardous emissions and downsize the cost of production in this sector. We did very vast work to summarize the experience of the recent times, which was accumulated by different companies in the market, different success stories. Everything which is related to LCA of different fuels is the key work. It's important, is the backbone of all the other research in transformations of transport sector of any country whatsoever. All this audience, all of you are fully aware of that. When we are comparing EVs, hydrogen vehicles, natural gas vehicles, we should be aware of the effects, mindful of entire life cycle from energy resource upstream all the way down to its use in the transport system. So full life cycle is very important. from the economic and other standpoints. Running ahead, I might say that when we are putting together specific recommendations for specific country about potential structure of using different alternatives in transportation sector, we would be able to provide for those recommendations without tackling upon other issues as well, sorting out energy sector, doing its optimization, identifying the structure of energy resources to be used by the country for electrical power generation, because from the standpoint of LCA, it has a very strong bearing upon economic indicators of the transport. Depending on the electrical generation portfolio in the country, will be dealing with different effects. Classic example referred to by Vladimir Putin repeatedly as well. If in current conditions we try to electrify Poland fully up to 100%, will receive very complex economic and ecological effect, mindful of very big share of coal in electrification of that country. We made a thorough analysis of what is the current state of affairs in the markets of CIS and Southern Europe, Southern Eastern Europe, which is in the perimeter of the project of Unece. And there are three types of countries whereby NGV market is well developed. First of all, it's Uzbekistan, Armenia, Bulgaria as well, but Bulgaria is closer to the second group. Second group is countries proactively developing NGV market now or in the past decade and are at the stage when basic infrastructure of gas filling stations is not fully formed, but a huge work was already done and very few efforts are remaining for them. Same could be said for Belarus and Bulgaria and Serbia as well. So there are countries like Tajikistan as well. And work was done after that as well. But now gas market is rather complex and the number of gas filling stations is being curtailed. This is about access to energy resources and geopolitical implications and undertones and so on. There are some complexities and challenges we should take into account when we do the classification of the countries. We considered several parameters on each country, which demonstrates one with the other the potential development of NGV's market, and also the level of the number of vehicles per capita. And we can see that based on several parameters, we can identify groups of countries with very high potential of the development of NGV markets in their respective countries. And the level of gasification is shown on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, there is price differential, mindful of the current situation in the market, different types of fuel. And here you can see the differential between compressed natural gas and gasoline. And we can see that as to Uzbekistan, they have got about 1,000 of gas filling stations. The market is there, and yet there is a huge potential for further development because this price differential is still there, and there is very high degree of gasification. So the infrastructure will be further streamlined. Countries like Kazakhstan, Belarus, Azerbaijan, by the same token, have got a very high potential ensuing from the extra parameters we consider. And so, at this stage, we assess potential environmental effects from transition to natural gas, using natural gas as the major tool for transformation of the transportation sector. Here is the example from Moldova. for us to understand more those practical indicators. In order to transfer 50% of transport sector of Moldova to natural gas, we'll need extra 500,000 BCM of natural gas. That's not a lot vis-à-vis the general energy balance and shipments. So those ecological KPIs and parameters the Republic can attain when transport would be transferred to natural gas, increasing natural gas consumption, it's not a lot they have to do. So this goal is not overambitious, at least. Of course, in every country they have got their specific things here, but it's possible to cope with this issue, and economical, social, environmental, and other effects will offset all the investments, of course. The report concentrates also on motor vehicle transport and at the development of more specific proposals for each country. It's necessary to use more comprehensive approach covering other segments of transportation sector, waterway transport, and on the sidelines of this forum, this is widely discussed, and rail, transport, agricultural, pit trucks, and agricultural sector, pit trucks, and so on. These are very interesting and attractive from the standpoint of potential economic and ecological effects, but yet this work was not fully done. So we are looking ahead, provided the country is ready to move along those lines and prepare a comprehensive report on their prospects and the current state of affairs, then experts community represented by us or by wider range of international experts should be based on a more integrated and comprehensive approach, mindful of specific proposals for each country, which are different country to country, but there are some general bullet points, general for all, as the key instrument, mindful of the practice of Russian Federation as well, and we'll discuss it further in our discussion. So the key instrument we should start from is a comprehensive development program, which should envisage several key components. First, not only transportation sector should be engaged in that, but also forecasting in energy sector per se, to be aware of the structure of the use of different energy resources and to correctly assess all of them during LCA. And also we should study potential demand in each part of the sector. And practice shows that if the task is not just to research, but to implement the results of the study, the indispensable component of a comprehensive development program is the layout for the development of transportation sector, mindful of the location of specific infrastructural sites. We are in favor of comprehensive approach, not just gas filling stations, but servicing infrastructure for NGVs. It's about transportation refurbishment, the points of assessment and inspection of cell phones and so on. This is also a very important component for the development of this market alongside with gas filling stations, which should envisage all of that at the early stage to have a comprehensive study of economic and social situation. In a nutshell, on public opinion polls, unfortunately, it shows that notwithstanding the fact that we're fully aware that the sample we used in our work is not a representative sample from the standpoint that it's not just communication with end consumer. First of all, the respondents were communities from experts. It was experts community, but even in this sample, we can see that the advantages of natural gas from the environmental standpoint are not always clear to everyone. And this role of natural gas as energy resource, leveling up and balancing economy, social sphere, and environment is not communicated to the broad audience. There should be awareness raising about it. It's lacking here, and not in Russia only, but elsewhere. So consumers are not aware of that. They don't understand the real situation. So our recommendation is that sectoral community, global and international institutions should do awareness raising. I would say that promotion, at least it should be educational work based on the LCA, so that awareness raising should be done for the broad audience. There should be a detailed set of recommendations based on comparative analysis of different fuels and real picture of their impact upon not only decarbonization, because it's not only the only trend present, but also by the same token, they have a strong bearing upon other parameters of the development of economy, state, and so on. Next step would be more concrete and specific, comprehensive, integrated development programs in different countries, and we're hopeful that our efforts this year and next year will encourage those activities in all those countries in question. So you'll be able to look through this report, which is available at UNEC website, so you'll identify your place and all that. There are some more initiatives there as well, as I've mentioned, one of those being joint work in awareness raising and sort of educational as to technical regulation. I think the first initiative taken on board by us is about harmonization of requirements for transportation vehicles and cell phones of compressed natural gas. And colleagues will correct me if I'm wrong, but on the whole, this subject matter is on the cutting edge of our dialogue in specific transport corridors. One of famous initiatives is Europe-China transport corridor cutting through European countries, Belarus, Russian Federation, Kazakhstan, and Chinese Republic. And correspondingly, as to this logistical route, different requests are set forward for those cell phones of compressed natural gas for drivers. Crossing the border, driver should have sets of different documents and be aware of that, which constrains mobility and transportation flows. And provided this initiative at the international level is around us, so we should do something to harmonize those requirements so that natural gas in transport would be not only environmental friendly and cost efficient, but very convenient and advantageous for transportation companies, especially for those who are working on those cross-border routes. That about wraps it up. Thank you very much, colleagues. I'm pretty much hopeful that after this meeting, you'll have some questions and you'll be willing to continue discussions along those lines. I invite you to engage in the dialogue with us and look through this report, which is available on the website of UNEC.
So we're open for cooperation. Let's work together.
Have the next speaker, Flavio Merigo. Okay, and then I would like to give a speech to Maria Rosa. Flavio is still connecting. So we need maybe 10 more minutes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Spasiba. I'm very happy to be here after 2 years that we could not come because of this awful COVID. I'm always very happy to be in Russia, really, and my friends know how much I love Russia. So the subject we were talking today is extremely important. I don't want to go back and say how good is gas and natural gas, how much it would help everybody, children, all people. Gas is clean, perfect, and I think there would be no real transition unless the use of gas beyond 2035. I'm sure that even the recent crisis we had in Europe with the high prices of gas, it's a proof that without gas, Europe cannot go on. So, as I said before, once again, I have to say thank you to President Putin for his generous allowance to give us more gas. Thank you, Mr. Putin, thank you, Gazprom, and thank you, Russia. So now I like to introduce the new project that we are doing with, of course, NGV Russia and my friend Vasily. Russia was the first member I contacted for this new project. We need a new World Council group. We need to work together because, as we said before, we are a small world. We are a world that not everybody knows. For example, we are talking about the United States, about Canada. When I go there, and in Canada I have a family also, my daughter-in-law, they don't even know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about CNG and LNG. They look at me as crazy. They have in total, in North America, no more than 300,000 vehicles. And when you talk about gas, although they have many factories, many who are very big factories in the field with balloons, with components and so on, but the public, people, they don't know what we're talking about. So that's a question mark. Why? Why? And that's what it happens in many other countries. I'm coming from Italy, and yesterday Mr. Zukov mentioned Italy really like the benchmark for everything. He was in Italy with my friends, and he understood that Italy, it's really the country where we really take seriously CNG and LNG as a very, very important fuel. I don't even call it fuel anymore. I call it source of energy. It's much better. It sounds much more romantic right now that they don't like the catalytic conversion anymore. So let's call it source of energy. So we are going to start a new council. And despite the strong role regional and national association played in the last years, there is a strong need and opportunity for our industry to join again voices and forces on a world scale to foster the role of gases with a common, strong narrative that we are missing. In fact, the gas mobility industry is playing a crucial role in supporting the transition toward renewable and low-carbon gases with new technology and solutions. This is also related to fuels, where the role of renewable gas is growing together with the medium-term perspective of hydrogen to support the transition towards carbon neutrality. Yesterday, Mr. Zucker mentioned our public garbage company that is using the leftover they pick up from different houses to make it biomethane. So that's a perfect example of how to use gas. But of course, they also use natural gas together, biomethane, when they don't have enough biomethane, because it's perfect compatible. So why a new World Council? On the application side, not only road transport, but also maritime and rail are more and more interested and actively working on the use of gas on transport fuel. 2 months ago, I was very proud to cut the ribbon of a small boat in Venice on CNG, and that's the first achievement. I am half Venetian, and when I go home on Sunday, my next project will be to bring natural gas to Venice. It will be a great way of communication. Can you imagine Venice that goes clean? So, and we will do it also with Gazprom and with Vasily. That would be a big project that we're going to do. So a new platform for best practices, regulatory, and that's also very important because, for example, not everybody is using ECE. Before, we talk about ECE 110, 115, but in the States it doesn't work. I was capable to have the ECE adopted in Japan 2 years ago, and so now Isveco is going to Japan. But we have to do it all around the world. So we have to promote our industry further and engage on the right level with other global industry, gas stakeholders and policymakers. We cannot do by ourselves. So liquefied natural gas and bio-LNG contribute to foster the decarbonization of road and maritime transport, and in parallel provide a competitive fuel for many countries, developed and developing ones. Natural gas is becoming more important for energy systems around the world, with increasing demand from developing countries. Every day I have calls from India, from Nigeria, from Ghana, asking me to give them support in starting their CNG program. The gradual phase out of coal in the power sector, unfortunately, we don't have that in Poland, as mentioned before. And by the way, in Germany, they reopened 2 electrical plants on coal, and so they did in UK because they don't have enough gas. So, and the need of cleaning highways and maritime routes from polluting oil products will add a new pressure in the next year. So that has never been more urgent to join forces, discuss and collaborate at an international level between institutions, companies and organizations for identifying proper solutions that can accompany economic growth and social prosperity while reducing extreme price volatility dynamics seen in the past weeks and the other day and months. Among others, LNG and small-scale LNG infrastructure are fundamental in order to diversify supplies and make markets more liquid at the world level. In addition, new mechanisms and partnerships have to be implemented to promote its immediate scale-up as a source of sustainable mobility. And that's why we need a new World Gas Mobility Council. The sector representative will be the ideal association to form the umbrella of the Regional Association for Gas in Transport, a gas industry regulator sector, being this the backbone of the new association. Together, it is fundamental to include other players to achieve the maximum effectiveness. International and national associations also representing the voice of end users. And that's very important for communication. We have to involve the end user at the end because they will be our customer. And we have to go mainly to young people. Young people, now they are all green. We had the young lady from Sweden the other day in Italy for a couple of days. And she had thousands of young people. They all claim no more coal, but mainly no more natural gas. And that's all over Europe, in the States, all over. So we have to go to young people and tell them that that's completely wrong. Tell them that they will need gas in the future if they want the industry, if they want the wheat, if they want their country to develop, as I'm sure the young people want. So that's the communication we have to do to school, to university, on papers. Please, that's the advocacy that I'm asking you. The industrial sector, representing the entire value gas mobility chain, from fuel production and distribution to mobility providers. So we have to include road, rail, maritime, and component manufacture. A further step would consider partnership and additional agreements with other gas-related stakeholders. IGU will be the first, and they express initiative positive interest. By the way, the future president of IGU is my great friend, Andreas Steger. In 2025, he will be the next, by Islam, the next president of IGU. So he is with me, one of the founders of this new council. The founder members will be, of course, NGV Russia as first one, NGV Japan, NGV Egypt, and then we will have on board Latin American countries, Mexico, Korea, Nigeria, India, of course, China, and I hope to have more and more of the Unece countries together, because we need to be together, to be many. We are ready to share our experience. As I say, we have experience myself. I'm quite, I don't say old because that's not anymore a good word, but I'm aged, and I spent the last 35 years in this field. So I know everything about regulation. I know everything about what's going on in Brussels or in Italy. And please, we are ready to support all of you, together with Vasily, that is on my side as usual. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maria Rosa. Thank you very much for your initiative. You are the main driver of global NGV context and global natural gas advocacy. I think the great point that we need to discuss is, of course, that gas advocacy for young people, for young generations that Maria Rosa told. That's a huge problem because we need to find the right language. This type of communication is no more for young people. We can discuss it between us in such audience, but
right.
Yeah, it's not the right way to knock for young people. And we really need to find the right format, right language, right types of communication here, like an industry globally. And I hope that future World Council will be a leader and initiator of such work.
We will work very hard together, that's for sure.
Yeah, and of course, that's great initiative about the Venice for natural gas. That is quite interesting, not only from economical and ecological, but from the communication point of view, like PR event. In Russia, we hope that in St. Petersburg we will have more or less the same initiative when we will convert the river transport to natural gas as well. And local authorities in St. Petersburg are really interested in natural gas as a motor fuel. St. Petersburg bought a giant number of LNG buses last couple of months, and we hope that the next sector will be river transport. And the question is to Maria Rosa, how do you see the Venice project in terms of GR, in terms of communication with local authorities? Are they really interested in that, or we need to create the context?
Well, you know, I am creating some contacts, of course, with the mayor, with the governor, but mostly I'm working with, as I say, stakeholders. That means university, people who are involved in the Biennale. I mean, the Biennale, it's the art that every year we have in Venice. That means that it's quite cosmopolitan. It's not only Venetian, it's Italian. So Venice, it's always in the idea all over the world. And my idea is that to show the Venetian, to show the governor, to show the mayor, that they will get a lot of interest and a lot of promotion for them. So I'm talking to the Hotel Owner Association, because they also will have an advantage of this communication. I'm talking to the Association of Taxi over there are boats, of course. I'm talking, I have a very good contact with the university where they are promoting eco system for the Laguna, and they are helping me because they understand that the noise of diesel is extremely effective to the Laguna. So that's the communication I'm doing, and I am right now. I had all the little pieces, and when I go back, I have to put them all together and come up with a big. What I want to do at the beginning is an announcement with a reception to show people that yes, it can be done. I have a house in Venice because my family, part of my family, my mother was from Venice. And I have a big boat, let's say a truck, a water truck, every day under the windows and behind the Teatro La Fenice. And it's extremely noisy and extremely bad odor. So that's what we have to change. And what I'm saying, what I did for trucks in the last 10 years, I want to do with boats, that they are the water taxi. So that's what I am pushing. And I already have very good response. So what I want to say, yes, it can be done. Yes, we can avoid noise, we can avoid pollution, we can save also the buildings, because the buildings in the Laguna are very fragile, and the noise is extremely, extremely important, dangerous. So I think it would be the same for St. Petersburg. And we have the technology, as I say, we have the technology ready. Not for the big boats yet, but for traghetto, small boats, and transport passengers, small transport, fluvial, yes. So that's what we can do together. Would be great.
Thank you, Maria Rosa. It's a great initiative. I hope that you'll be successful in it, and as soon as possible. As we told before, we really need to have a complex picture, full picture of natural gas for vehicles sector and market. We need to go deeply in the different sectors, and river transport is one of them, but we also have such interesting segment like quarry machines and everything around that. And to give you the full picture of different experience all over the world, we would like to give a word to Dmitry Tisnoy, who is the head of Heavy Engines Committee in the United States, and he could share with us an experience of United States in this subject. Dmitry, please.
Здравствуйте всем.
Good afternoon, everybody. Dear colleagues, participants of the National Gas Motor Association and the forum organizers, I would like to thank you for the possibility to speak at this wonderful event and share my experience in the gas industry in the US. For your convenience, I translated presentation into Russian. If you see some translation mistakes, please forgive me. I think that the gas motor industry of the US can be described in the best way on the example of our company. In the US, industrial solutions for transportation are not like fairy tales. This is a well-developed business.
We're in Dallas, Texas, and our small company is a technical center on transition of engines to natural gas, construction of gas filling stations, and by the team taking care of compressed natural gas, liquefied natural gas, and other technical process gases. A year back from now, we launched logistical company with the rolling stock, fully using natural gas. Mindful of our experience, I can say that I fully agree with the previous speakers that we need comprehensive solutions related to collection, delivery, recycling, and use of natural gas as NGV or a source of energy. Here is the list of our companies, apart from CNH delivery and different competences, enabling us to offer a full range of services to our customers. Our company, Chino Texas, serviced and repaired more than 10,000 units of transport, working on and GV of all the classes. First of all, we were aiming at heavyweight vehicles as the secondary market of gas-fueled heavyweight vehicles is not developed equally in other countries. We decided to streamline it. Our company restored more than 500 units of vehicles, most of which were then sold to Latin America. And I'll tell you about other companies as well later on. It's common knowledge for most of you that there are two major types of engines on natural gas. Two fuels and working on 100% gas. This slide describes some advantages and downsides of two-fuel system, and major advantages of those systems are that they can be very easily installed on motors, and that way they can replace a part of diesel fuel by gas. And if they run out of gas, then driver will not even notice it because it's a two-fueled vehicle. But as to the economic efficiency and carbon footprint reduction is not very high. So 100% natural gas use is better. In America, those two fuel systems are used in mining and drill rigs. Currently, in America, a full transition of engine to gas is most popular because its advantages shown in this slide override the disadvantages. Cummins Company is the predominant leader in the market, and it has got solutions for engines with a volume of 9 liters and 12 liters as well. I deliberately decided to show you our repair workshop for you to get the flavor of this workshop, whereby simultaneously we work on 20 gas units. There are 200 people in the company, engineers, mechanics, drivers, and other workers. It's almost 3 o'clock in the morning. In America, it's very quiet, but amid the day, it's very noisy and very busy. Believe me, it should be noted that we also have got our in-house laboratory where we test our engines. At the outset of summer, we acquired Wind Power System Company from Westport Company. This company, within 20 years, has been developing and installing systems on transition of all Ford vehicles to natural gas. a wide range of Ford representatives came along with that company, and across America, they install those engines. For me, super powerful engines are most fascinating direction nowadays because it sorts out the issues of decarbonization. Given the huge consumption of fuel at drill rigs and in open pit mining, even if the infrastructure of LNG and CNG is very high. Leading companies in the market is Caterpillar with dynamic blending and coefficient of diesel fuel replacement up to 80%. Very interesting solutions are coming up for modernization of engines. Cummins, QSK, MTU, and CAT. You can see the pictures of our joint work on certification of gas solution for a QSQ-60. 2,500 horsepower capacity. In the American market, there are at least 7 companies proactively working on transition of super powerful engines to dual fuel systems. I think that in Q1 and Q2 2022, we'll see in the market several solutions ready for operation. Here are our solutions on mobile transportation of gas to remote sites. Gas could be taken from nearby hub as LNG. One of the leaders in the American market is Nikisha company. Latest American developments in CNG trailer manufacturing enable us to transfer up to 16,000 cubic meters at one go without liquefying it. It's important to say that solutions on mobile or virtual pipe are offered by us in the domestic market, and they resolve many problems. For example, transportation of gas to those places whereby it would not be expedient to line a pipe. And by the same token, if someone is launching the project and it takes awfully long to launch this station with the help of such solutions, it is possible to do it promptly. And also, let's say if you launched a gas filling station, but you would like to speed up the coefficient of its use, you can do that. This mobile delivery is streamlined logistics, helping you to sort out many challenges, although it's not cheap, of course. And next slide will be very interesting for those who are related to logistics. This is logistical company we launched about a year ago. Now we have more than 120 trucks of class 6, 8, and 8 working on natural gas. For us, natural gas is not an alternative fuel. It's the fuel, the only fuel we have been using. The formula of success is very simple. We restore trucks and we transfer them to natural gas. That way, we receive very good asset, almost new truck, which costs much less versus those which are used by other logistics companies when we run it on natural gas. That way, we downsize our operational costs. That is the industry where everybody is competing versus everybody else. For a couple of kopecks per mile, we're head above shoulders of all the rest. We have got very high competitive edge, mindful of the subsidies available in Dallas, Texas. And when we're using our own gas filling station, the cost for gallon is about $1.30. Whereas our competitors get filled by diesel fuel at $2.50. And we keep telling our customers that when we use natural gas, biogas, that way we reduce carbon footprint. Then we'll be able to digitize it and refer to it in their ESG reports. I hope you can see all that. This is the extra imaging and visualization, which helps us to explain customers that when they use biogas over the recent 30 days, they prevented 700 cubic ton gas emissions into atmosphere, which would be equal to planting 11,000 trees instead. Much cleaner environment. That's how integrator should work. Well-conceived concepts, clear-cut bullet points explaining things to customers. That way we can work in oil sector and other sectors. I check out those 4 bars in the right-hand side. Carbon intensity of different fuels are shown here, and you can see that natural gas provides us with the best footprint, and some types of biogas or RNG provide for adverse effect. One of my strategic goals is by the year 2024 to bring our transportation company to zero or negative level of environmental pollution. The number of gas projects in America has been scaling up. There are about 200 of those nowadays, and another 150 are work in progress. But statistic is very impressive. By the year 2040, in 2050, it will be about 5,000 out of 460 million of gallons of gas sold in U.S. In 2020. 33 are biogas already. Maybe by a twist of fortune, we have become the largest rolling stock company with EVs. Here you can see Halion company's solution. They're from Austin. They developed a package. These are charging battery and battery management packet and electrical electrical vehicle on the rear axle. Most of the engines of Halion with gas engines are that there is electric drive connected when they need extra capacity for a brief time span. We have been working with Halion since long way back. We know them pretty well. To other companies like Tesla, Nikola, Hyson, I would say that Halion is the ready-made product which is already there, and we don't have to wait until the infrastructure is there. We're looking forward to the new solution, RX, and they promised to provide us with that. And we'll look what happens next. I was so enthusiastic to tell you about our love and passion for natural gas, but we're not the only ones like that in the American market. Many companies in USA use natural gas for transportation of their goods. And also there are success stories already, like UPS, which since 2017 decided to work to make all the vehicles working on natural gas. They have got more than 6,000 of those. They have got also diesel fuel, but we pursued another avenue. We would like to prove ourselves and all the others that we can work on up to 100% on natural gas alone. Another very good example is waste management company. At this stage, there are more than 8,000 vehicles working on natural gas, a plethora of gas filling stations. By 2018, they are going to reduce their carbon footprint by 30%. versus what they had in 2016. I would like to finish my presentation by the words of famous ice hockey player Wayne Gretzky. Good hockey players are next to puck, and the great hockey players are where this puck will be in a second. There is no doubt that the future of the transport sector is green, and that natural gas is one of those directions which we pursue and which was proven. NGV solutions for all the sectors is very good project, and you should give it a try. But you should be convinced that everything will be all right and start doing that. And you should discard all your doubts. But you should have comprehensive approach. You should start working with experts. That way you'll save your time and your money. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you so much.
Today, and we hope to stay in touch and hope to have a great future in our common initiatives, and always glad to see you in our events. One of the points, one of the questions that we need to discuss today is one of the basic messages of the report is a concept of full life cycle analysis for different types of fuel. And I would like to share the scene, to give a microphone to Flavio Merigo, who is a technical director of New World Gas Mobility Council. And he will share some insights about the life cycle analysis. Flavio?
Can you hear me?
Yes. And we see you and hear you. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for your kind invitation. Unfortunately, I can be with you and join your interesting meeting. Let's see next year if we are much more lucky than this year. So I share my screen, and let's see if I'm able to show my presentation. Okay. So, can you see?
Not yet. Yes.
Fantastic. Good. So I have prepared my speech on the subject of life cycle assessment, and I would like to share with you some interesting things that we have seen here in Italy, and in order to understand how to manage what here in Europe the European community is doing. So you know that the European community has forwarded a Fit for 55 strategy that is very much dangerous for our sector, just because there are some concepts that are not good for us and which we are very much fighting. The concept is one mainly that the electric vehicle are assumed as a zero emission vehicle. And we all know that it is not the fact, that it is not the reality, because of course they are trying to convince us to measure the emission and the tailpipe. And of course, battery electric vehicle hasn't got a tailpipe. So for this reason, we have been pushing the last years in order to adopt the life cycle assessment analysis in order to show which is the real impact of electric vehicle on the environment. So in my presentation, we'll find some data that has been prepared by SNAM that now are available officially, that I put in my presentation, but we have not enough time to comment all that. The only thing that I want to focus and I want to draw your attention about the values of the emission that has been found in the real driving cycle. This means that this emission has been calculated during the real use of vehicles. So I don't want to go through what happened the last week, where we have seen a new report of one agency that is mainly focused on the promotion of electric vehicle. And once more, they are now focusing the emission of a particular matter. I want to show what we have found, and it is official, that is already inserted in the official database. So the emission of a particular matter of a vehicle fueled with CNG are very, very, very low. So you see that I have also put here what was in the previous database and which is now the real finding in the real driving emission. You see that the particular matter due to the natural gas is so low that we can consider around zero. You find here the updated data. Please take a look at that. If you can, if you want, you can use, because our official data. And again, once more, I want to precise that they are inserted in the official database of the European Community. Okay, so now I would like to again to draw your attention. As I mentioned before, at the beginning, we started talking about the well-to-wheel analysis. This means the emission calculated from the extraction of the natural gas till the use on road. And we have now forwarded that just because that is not enough. If we are talking about the environment, we have to take into consideration all the emissions that are produced during the life cycle. And here I have prepared a table dividing which kind of emission are charged for different phase of life of a vehicle. This has been calculated some years ago by means of a research team, and this data are official and published. So you see here, which is the contribution of a different vehicle to the pollution during the production phase. So, of course, these are divided in by different fuels. So I would like to draw your attention on natural gas, what is concerned with the natural gas. And of course, the production of electricity in Italy, this is the Italy mix, and the biomethane. So later we will talk about also to offer blended fuel. This is the life cycle assessment that is concerned with the use of vehicle. And what we see, we see that, of course, if we want to produce the electricity, of course, this action has got an impact on the environment. And this is what we are now telling from the last year. Just because if we adopt that the battery electric vehicle are zero emission vehicle, that is not true. Because if we take into consideration the production phase and the use, of course, we have to consider also which is the impact of the production of electric energy on the environment. So I go ahead just because I want to introduce you another point of view that is made on the blended fuel. So at the end, of course, we have to consider the impact on the end of life of the product, and this is the calculation on the life cycle assessment as far as concerned with the dismissal of the electric vehicle. At the end, this is the final result. What we see that if we consider the natural gas and the electric vehicle, we see that we are not so far, even in taking into consideration, which is the emission factor of the production of electricity in Europe, but that is higher than the electricity produced in Italy. So now let me go ahead with the next concept. And this is mainly concerned also with the technical sustainability of the natural gas vehicle. Very shortly, this is the explanation about the work that now we are carrying on inside the subcommittee 41, ISO TC22, and in which we prepare all the standards for the use of alternative fuels in transportation. So we have, this is the technical committee that I chair, and we have developed now a collaboration with ISO TC 197 hydrogen technologies in order to prepare a standard for the use of blended fuel. This means that now we have focused our attention to the 10%, 20%, 30% of hydrogen that we can use very easily. So if we mix, you see, that is the rationale, the technical rationale. If we mix 30% of hydrogen with the natural gas, with the fossil natural gas, and of course the same for the environment, we have no problem at all, because the present technology of the engines that are running on natural gas can easily use up to 30% of hydrogen without any changes. And you see that we have no problem at all from the point of view of electronic calibration. We have no problem about the component. The only thing that now we are investigating is the use of metallic cylinders. This means CNG1 mainly, because we have no problem at all with the CNG4, for example. And now what we are trying to understand is which is the effect of hydrogen of cylinders, metal cylinders, in order to understand which is the behavior after some years and after having contained for a long time a blended fuel with a percentage of hydrogen up to 20%. And again, no problem at all for what is considered is concerned with CNG4. So this is the result of a research activity that has been conducted many years ago in Italy. So we are talking about data that are coming from a practical experience in Italy. This research program has been led by engineer Andrea Giarini, maybe that you all know. And at the end, so the research program was based on a conversion of a number of Fiat Panda to the use of blended fuel. Consider that the technology, which now we are referring to, is the conventional vehicle that in principle has been designed for running to liquid fuels as a gasoline. This means that, of course, if we do the same now, we do apply this experience to new vehicles, new engines, I'm sure that the result will be much, much more effective. So what we see now? Now I show you which is the reduction of the CO2 with a different percentage of hydrogen in volume, and the improvement that we have achieved in the emissions. So that means that the impact on the environment. From technical point of view, as I mentioned before, no problem at all. The engine were running perfectly. The electronic devices have corrected perfectly the blended fuel for the use in that engines at that time. So what now I have calculated? I'm certain now the result of that research program in the LCA calculation, and look which is the final result. So if I take into consideration the fact that I use a blended fuel, and remember that the research program was being conducted many years ago. That means that we are talking about engines that now are much more sophisticated. So if I insert the blended fuel, 30% hydrogen in volume, with the use of fossil natural gas, you see that I am very, very close to the total impact of the electric vehicles on the environment. I'm absolutely sure that if we use that, if we conduct again this kind of experimentation with the new vehicle, this final value in the life cycle assessment will be lower than the electric vehicle that are now powered with the electricity with the Italian mix. Of course, if we use the biomethane, we are much, much more effective in the impact on the environment. Look that if I mix 28% of biomethane in the fossil natural gas, the impact is exactly the same of the battery electric vehicle. So this means that despite the campaign that has been done in order to avoid the use of natural gas, the experience and the research tells that the natural gas has got, in my personal opinion, and of course as a result of the test, has got a long life in order to be used for the reduction of the impact on the environment and to permit that the vehicle can be used in a safe manner, in a manner which we can also give a good result from the point of view of the cost, the user cost, and of course the reduction of the impact on the environment. Many thanks for your attention, and I hope next year to meet you in presence. Thanks again.
Dear Flavio, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your expertise, your insights about life cycle analysis, and especially many thanks for this points about methane and hydrogen mix. That is really interesting option, and the most realistic option how to use hydrogen in transportation sector effectively and reaching all the ecological and economical needs of our countries. I hope that World Gas Mobility Council will be one of the main expert platforms that can help countries and companies worldwide to understand their specifics and the potential of usage of natural gas as a motor fuel. So, and I hope we will keep in touch, and we'll work together on these initiatives, and with Maria Rosa and her initiative, the global platform.
Of course, I hope so. Yeah, that is a privilege to work with you, and I hope so that we can do very soon, very soon. So thanks again for giving me the opportunity to meet you virtually.
Thank you very much, Flavio. Now it's time to share with you some Russian experience. And in Russia, we have a nice history about NGV sector and about the active governmental position of supporting NGV market. And Gazprom, as a leader of the market and as a main company and the main operator of NGV market in Russia, also can share some insights how to organize the policy, how to organize the stimulation of NGV market as a whole. Mikhail Lebedev, head of PR division of Gazprom NGV company.
A very good day to you. Thank you very much for having me. It is a great honor to contribute to such a noble discussion with my report about Russian market. But I will conduct my report in Russian as one of the as we are here in Russia today, and speaking of the UN, it is one of the 5 UN official languages. But if that will, if there will be any points lost in translation, I do hope to have some questions from you, dear colleagues. Итак, господа, еще раз спасибо.
Colleagues, once again, thanks for having me. My name is Mikhail Lebedev. I hope my report will supplement today's discussion. Let's begin with our company, Gazprom Gas Motor Fuel. We are a single operator on the market for the development of gas motor fuel from Gazprom. The company was set up in 2012. Our key tasks are promotion of Gazprom leadership position on the market via expansion of fuel infrastructure, gas fuel infrastructure in the regions of Russia, and fostering the demand for methane. Also, we are forming a single information field for all the market participants. Also, we create favorable political and economic conditions for the market development via cooperation with the government, car producers, and other stakeholders. And there are plenty of them, I have to note. Methane utilization as a motor fuel every year shows a better dynamics. In 2020, the Russian market overcame 1 billion cubic meters, crossed the level of 1 billion cubic meters, thus exceeding the plan in the Soviet Union in 1980. In 2021, we do hope that we will achieve another level, 1.3 billion cubic meters of gas motor fuel. And we plan to have 650 fuel stations. More than 60% of gas fuel stations infrastructure around the country is currently operated by Gazprom group of companies. the company's share is about 80%. I mean, in the area of using methane as motor fuel. During the last 5 years, the gas motor fuel market of Russia has grown twice. The consumption volume of compressed natural gas increased by 95%. Now we have twice more gas fuel stations. We used to have 298. Now we have 528 by the end of the last year. During 5 years, the number of gas motor vehicles has increased considerably by 134 items. Now we have nearly 230,000 vehicles. Here on the slide, you see the main market growth factors I think of interest. All of them are different in different regions of Russia, but anyway, the overall dynamics is positive. This particular slide was taken from the rating of regions. We created the regions of Russia. We rate regions by their successful promotion of gas motor fuel. The market leader, by the results of our study, is Rostov region. Number 2 is Tatarstan. So we may say that the market has started to develop, and we already have conditions in place to continue our work in different regions of Russia. And the rating helps us monitor the regions, whether they're active or not. And I believe it is also important for the regions. They're competing with each other. I think that it will motivate them additionally to promote gas motor fuel markets. Of course, I have to acknowledge the state support of the sector. In 2019, for the first time in modern Russia, a strategic industry development document was adopted, highlighting the main state measures of market fostering. Last year, in 2020, the gas motor market support accounted to 100 billion rubles from the federal budget. Mainly this money went for the retrofitting of passenger car fleets. More than 3 billion rubles were subsidies for car manufacturers. New stations got more than 2 billion rubles. Also, some investment went to equipment modernization, 0.5 billion rubles. Subsidies are given from the Ministry of Trade for methane equipment manufacturers. In order to reach the planned numbers in the area of methane utilization as motor fuel, we still need to improve and to expand our car fleet. I believe we need 370 additional vehicles on the roads of our country in order to reach our plan figures. By 2024, we need to have overall 600 vehicles in order to ensure consumption of 2.7 billion cubic meters. I will remind you that today in Russia we have only 227 vehicles running on methane. So state support today helps a lot, but it accounts for only 70% of the required car fleet expansion. Gas motor fuel car fleet expansion is the basis for the market development. The more cars we have, the more infrastructure will be loaded, which will help us attract investment, and we believe we'll have to do the following: to lower administrative barriers for transport modernization. We have to have more state support for converting cars to methane. We have to manufacture more cars on methane locally in Russia. Of course, we have to continue our efforts with popularization of gas motor fuel in different ways. Yesterday, the chairman of the board of directors of Gazprom was presented with an interesting project of mobile schools on methane. So people will understand that it's safe and economically sound at the level of learning already, and the use of gas motor fuel is yet another contribution to both economic and environmental well-being of the world. And I'm absolutely agree with Vasily Leonidovich and others who said that the use of methane as fuel, well, in all ways help us achieve a number of SDGs. Vasily Leonidovich mentioned only 8 goals. However, I believe that we will cover 11. I anyway believe that both results are quite satisfactory. As for expert evaluation, for the period from 2014 to 2020, thanks to the use of methane by such companies as Gazprom, we managed to reduce emissions into the atmosphere by 179,000 tons. And conversion of equipment to gas motor fuel gave us 8.1 billion rubles in additional to our income. Gazprom gas motor fuel continues its work with market development together with the government and car manufacturers, different partners and stakeholders. We're expanding our fuel station infrastructure in 2021, 2022, and 2023. We plan to launch this year 49 new stations, and in 2022, 82 stations, and in 2023, 109 stations accordingly. All in all, by the end of 2023, we plan to have 240 stations more than we have now, and we will be present in 70 regions.
Все намеченные планы, мы надеемся, будут.
And we're hopeful to take on board and fully implement all the plans under the proactive governmental state support. But it's difficult to reach the pinnacle and perfection in anything whatsoever. We are developing further, but there are some constraints as well. But we hope to cope with that through joint efforts. We'll do that, and we'll carry through with our work on extension of the list of subsidized regions. And by the same token, it's necessary to scale up the volumes of those subsidies for each transportation vehicle working on NGV. There should be less difference between the amounts of subsidies channeled into vehicles working on compressed natural gas and that working on LNG. Apart from that, we suggest that there should be much less administrative barriers to the way to transition to NGV, which is also very important. That's it. Thank you very much. And I hope that I can take your questions on the sidelines of the conference.
I would like to point out for our international online audience that in Russia we really have the complex approach of supporting NGV market. We have different types of subsidies for car manufacturers, for conversion of current existing transport, for creation of filling infrastructure, like for CNG stations and for LNG stations as well. So we really can, as a country, we really can share the experience of such approach. Our government really chose methane as the main alternative fuel for our country, and our president always tells about our approach. And also I would like to mention that it's really important if governmental authorities also have active position for this question. And the last speech before the break in the first part of our event will be from Sakhalin region. They have a really interesting, quite specific experience. They start to promote NGV market and to stimulate energy market themselves with the sources of regional budget, even before they become a part of the federal program and before they get some federal subsidies from the Russian government. So we have a next speaker online. Mikhail Guzenko is the Minister of Energy of Sakhalin region. Mikhail.
Здравствуйте, на связи Сахалин. Василий, спасибо большое за предоставленное слово.
Hello, can you see me? Can you hear me? I am very glad to have been given the floor. I will allow myself to start my presentation. And I would like to tell you a few words about Sakhalin region. Sakhalin region is the only federal entity of Russia which is fully located on the islands. It's Sakhalin Island and Kuril Ridge. The population is 485,000 people. As to motor vehicles on our islands, it's about 206,000 units. Since 2016, the government of Sakhalin region has embarked upon the sustainable policies of transition to NGVs and development of gas filling stations infrastructure. And in 2021, Sakhalin region entered the experiment which envisages achievement of carbon neutrality in the economy of Sakhalin region by 2025. That is about gradual reduction of CO2 and its equivalents, emissions, and the enhancement of absorbing capacity of Sakhalin region by 2025 will reach carbon neutralization. The second part of the experiment is setting up the market of carbon equivalents. So we are the only region of Russian Federation which will follow the principles of Paris Climatic Agreement. I would like to tell you where we are nowadays, how we position ourselves. Here you can see the prospects of the development since 2020 until 2025. Now in our territory we have got 3 and GV filling stations and 7 mobile gas filling stations. Until 2025 will enhance the infrastructure on these NGV gas filling stations to 11 and to open up 3 cryogenic gas filling stations. Here is our Sakhalin Island and already existing and prospective that is coming up in future gas filling stations. The length of Sakhalin Island from south to north is about 1,000 kilometers. So for our car drivers, households with passenger cars and businesses, it's very interesting to develop along those lines, and that's what we have been doing. For example, currently we have got only 3 such gas filling station in the southern part of Sakhalin, which are movable, but we have got also mobile gas filling stations which go all the way up to the middle part of the island. So now it's possible to drive across the island because there could be lots of dual fuel vehicles. If they run out of natural gas, automatically they shift back to conventional fuels. That way, until 2025, we envisage expanding this infrastructure and to cover entire Sakhalin's islands area. By that, network of state-of-the-art gas filling stations. Also, we developed the complexes of fuel working on LNG. For that, we plan to open up 3 cryogenic gas filling stations, 1 in the middle of the island, 1 up north, 1 down south, mindful of the fact that it's possible to use one to drive a big amount of kilometers after one filling. So all the transportation vehicles will be run on LNG mostly. And that's what we started from in 2016 at 0.15 BCM. That was filling in 2016. It grew drastically, and you see that it's 4.5 million cubic meters in 2021. And mindful of our population and the number of vehicles on our roads, we think that this is a very commendable result. As to transition of motor vehicles to NGV fuel in 2016, we started from 64 units, and then year to date and over 9 months of the year 2021, it's about 2,185 units of those vehicles on the roads using gas as motor fuel. I myself also set my personal example. I transferred my company's car to gas. In the next slide, I would like to tell you a few words about the supportive measures exercised by the government in transition to NGV for households. By 50%, we reduced transportation task for households when their car runs on gas. They have to pay by 50% less their vehicle tax, and by 100%, we also reimburse the cost of retrofitting of the equipment to transit to gas. It's no more than 150,000 rubles each and every resident of our region can free of charge refurbish their car so that it would run on gas. This amount of money is sufficient. And in case of very big sized cars, it might be slightly more expensive, but not much. So this money difference would be paid by local residents themselves. Those support measures of the local governments have been around since 2016. Money is disbursed from the federal budget and from the regional budget as well, which are the support measures for enterprises. By the same token, 50% tax benefit on transportation tax, between 70 and 90% is the compensation for procurement of new motor vehicles and refurbishment of the vehicles for agriculture and food industry, and 75% is the reimbursement of the cost for refurbishment for all the enterprises, but not to over exceed 150,000 per one vehicle. I already mentioned that is for legal entities up to 75%. That is also a regional measure of support. Regional measures to support development of gas filling infrastructure. There is the federal level of support and the local domestic level of support. I'm proud to see that since 2021, the government of Russian Federation introduced Sakhalin region into a list of federal entities to be entitled to governmental support for development of gas filling stations and transition of vehicles to gas. That way, we enhance this regional support by federal support. When it comes to land plots for NGV gas filling stations, those municipal land plots are provided to the companies without system of tenders. And also we are supporting mobile gas filling stations to attract the interest of companies and households. We should encourage them also by financial support and subsidies. In Sakhalin, there are 7 mobile gas filling stations because it's quite costly to build and fix the gas filling station like that. But in order to develop this infrastructure and demonstrate households and companies all the benefits of that, first we start from mobile gas filling stations. Since this year, as we entered the federal list for priority development of gas filling stations infrastructure with the help of federal budget and in co-funding with federal budget, we are able to subsidize up to 1 million ruble to we are ready to reimburse 36 million rubles. That is the subsidized cost of the construction of fixed gas filling stations. And also there is 1 million rubles. That is the reimbursement of the cost of the equipment for service centers, because service centers also have to refurbish their equipment so that the vehicle could be run on NGV. So we give a helping hand to our businesses, either to start from scratch to construct a new service center or to refurbish already existing ones for them to use gas motor fuel. That way we reimburse legal entities 1 million ruble for the equipment for services rendered to end users to refurbish this equipment. Which measures to support those gas filling station structure we have? There are other incentives to use NGV vehicles. From the administrative standpoint, we imposed the ban on purchasing diesel and gasoline equipment, which is to be acquired from the budget of Sakhalin region and also by our municipalities and our budget-run institutions. That way, we prohibited purchasing diesel and gasoline equipment, vehicles, but sometimes we grant permission to purchase that, because it's not that in all the districts this infrastructure of gas fillings is available. In some remote regions, it's not. So we sometimes grant permission to purchase traditional fuels, purchase vehicles run on traditional, conventional fuels, on diesel and gasoline, diesel fuel, as I say. But in that case, we have to discuss it with the Minister of Energy of Sakhalin region. And as an incentive measure for use NGV for vehicles at passenger transportations and all the cleaning and garbage transporting municipal vehicles on the roads can also do that. And we streamlined our purchasing and procurement procedures for some municipal transportation routes. We introduced the priority and benefits to those enterprises which are going to use gas motor fuels for passenger transportation. So most part of the vehicles transporting passengers in Sakhalin and in intramunicipal routes is run on NGVs. That about wraps it up. Thank you very much for your attention. I am ready to take your questions, if any, and my heartfelt thanks to the organizers for having been invited.
Great case, a great example of the active position of regional authorities, and we really offer other regions of Russia and maybe some regions of other countries in CIS and abroad. Please look at this experience. It's really a nice example how to stimulate NGV market locally. And thank you very much, Mikhail, for participation. We know that in Sakhalin it's already late Friday evening. So thank you very much for your time, and we wish you a great weekend that starts in Sakhalin now. Hope so, and we will continue our event. We'll have a short, not maybe so short, like half an hour coffee break, and after that we will switch to Russian, and we'll talk about an experience of Russian Federation and some CIS countries and the perspective of the NGV market. But before that, I would like to invite to the tribune Mr. Evgeny Nikolaevich Pronin, who is the chairman of the Council of NGV Market Veterans.
Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, friends, the Council of Veterans of Gas Fuel Sector this year has been conducting on all the venues the Russian ceremony of awards to merit the people, and they are awarded the official title, the NGV specialist. We would like to initiate into the Knights of this order two people. First of all, it's Madam Maria Rosa Baroni, and secondly, Mr. Vasily Zinin. Thank you. Dear colleagues, we will resume after a half hour. It will be 1 p.m. We'll reconvene after coffee. This black door is the secret coffee break zone. Please use it, and we'll reconvene half an hour later.
Эксплуатация автомобиля на газомоторном топливе не сложнее, чем эксплуатация традиционного авто. Заправка осуществляется на автомобильных газонаполнительных компрессорных станциях АГНКС. При заправке компримированный природный газ поступает через выносное заправочное устройство и баллонный вентиль в баллоны. Баллоны заправляются одновременно, так как соединены между собой газовой магистралью. Заправка производится до достижения давления в 200 атмосфер. В момент запуска двигателя газ из баллонов по магистрали высокого давления поступает в редуктор, где давление газа снижается до величины близкой к 2 атмосферам. Из редуктора, пройдя через фильтр очистки и газовые форсунки, газ подается в камеру сгорания двигателя. К каждому цилиндру двигателя газ подается через отдельную форсунку. Таким образом, на 4-цилиндровый двигатель устанавливается рампа с 4 газовыми форсунками. Датчик давления газа и разрежения во впускном коллекторе измеряет разницу между разрежением во впускном коллекторе и давлением газа в форсуночной планке. Работа всей системы контролируется электронным блоком управления, который определяет оптимальное время открытия газовых форсунок.
What is compressed natural gas? What does it do? Where does it come from? Should you see a doctor about it? No, you don't need medical attention. Let me explain. Compressed natural gas, or CNG, is a readily available alternative to gasoline that's made by compressing natural gas to less than 1% of its volume using pressure. Yes, it sounds technical, but really it's the greatest discovery since the invention of the smartphone. Now, you're sitting there going, wow, I love my smartphone. That's insightful. Where did the stuff come from? It's a simple recipe. You take 1 part microscopic single-celled plants and 1 part microscopic single-celled animals. Cover them with sediment before they can decay and cook them for a few 100 million years at high heat under tons of pressure, and presto, you get natural gas. To harness it, natural gas is drawn from domestic gas wells in conjunction with oil production all over North America. That's right, our own energy supply exists right under our own feet. No need to import a thing, because America is now the world's largest natural gas producer, surpassing Russia in 2009. Nice to lead the world in something new, huh? In fact, approximately 99% of the natural gas we use comes from North America. And the production of natural gas creates jobs, supports communities, and revitalizes local economies. So how does this help you? Well, natural gas makes clean electricity in power plants that previously used dirty coal. That is huge. It also provides heat for homes and cooking, and helps with the manufacturing of plastics and steel, among many other things. So, when you use a toothbrush, natural gas is helping you with basic hygiene. It's clean, it's affordable, and it's abundant. Estimated U.S. reserves give us more than a 100-year supply, and we'll all be driving flying cars by then. Plus, it creates hundreds and thousands of jobs across the nation, and it can free us from dependence on costly imported oil from unstable OPEC nations. And what's the biggest benefit? Compressed natural gas burns clean and can power our cars while lowering greenhouse gas emissions. And our trucks, and buses, and vans, and yes, even our garbage trucks. Oh yeah, and did I mention that CNG costs about half as much as gasoline? Think about what that can do for the economy, families and businesses.
Коллеги, давайте занимать места на сцене и будем продолжать вторую часть нашего сегодняшнего мероприятия. Коллеги, и в зале.
Dear colleagues, please take your seats. Let's continue. We've enjoyed video films from different countries. They have different level of political correctness. Maybe paid attention to this. Indeed, the market of natural gas is quite attractive to many countries, and they're ready to exert any effort to take a place in the market, because it's really too promising for them. So, as far as we have already touched upon the topic of video content, I have to say that indeed this is quite an irrelevant issue at the level of national associations and new global structures which are set up to promote natural gas as new modes of fuel. We see a key task to find a formula for describing our product and its advantages. Quite sufficient and yet brief description of the new products and its specific features. So we continue. It's our second part to be carried out in Russian. I would like to ask you to begin. If anybody wants to join, please feel free to do this. And we will continue to discuss the best practices of gas motor fuel market development, motivating from the government. So I would like to give the floor to the representative of the Republic of Tatarstan, one of the pilot countries in gas motor fuel promotion. Indeed, they have done a lot to form the market in the Republic. Now that's the upper level. They are creating basic infrastructure for LNG, for shipment, transit routes, and so on. Indeed, tremendous work and very good practice to be disseminated in Russian Federation and beyond, and what we're going to discuss today. Marat Minbayev, the Republic of Tatarstan. The floor is yours. Thank you, Vasily. First of all, I'd like to thank for organizing a wonderful forum. Yesterday's plenary session and this round table are very informative. We've heard about a good example of Italy. Indeed, we have to do a lot to catch up with them. In Tatarstan, we are working towards development of the gas motor fuel. We started in 2013, instructed by the government of the Russian Federation and the president. We adopted a program of gas motor fuel development in Tatarstan and signed a decree with a company working with gas motor fuel, and we are thankful to them for this cooperation. They are our reliable partners. In our republic, we already have 1.5 billion rubles allocated to implement this program. Mainly, the subsidies will go for purchasing and retrofitting of vehicles. Our ministers are using such cars retrofitted. The only obstacle is the requirement for safety. Our infrastructure is not ready yet. We still have to work on this, but anyway, by now we have already saved a substantial sum of money, 12 million rubles, which we already allocated for social purposes. And during these years, we have accumulated a lot of experience developing the market. We've created repair stations and maintenance centers, a laboratory for gas equipment analysis, and training centers for drivers and operators. These are the results of our program. So we have retrofitted more than 10,000 vehicles. We rank number 2nd after the Rostov region, but anyway, we have a space for development, for improvement. I believe that we have to set more ambitious goals. Tatarstan was a pilot region to develop subsidizing mechanism for car conversion. Then it was our good practice was used at the federal level. About 18,000 vehicles have been converted. These are our plans for fuel station creation, setting up Compared with previous year, the growth is 40%. So what goes first? We are discussing this, but anyway, we believe that infrastructure is essential for the market development. What is positive is that a lot of SMEs are already participating in the program. There is no any monopoly. We have a lot of employees engaged in the programs. It's a complex program involving current producers of gas motor vehicles, KAMAZ. They're expanding their portfolio. More than 100 models already produced using LNG and CNG. 8,000 units were manufactured last year, and all in all, 14,000 vehicles have been manufactured. We have our own market leader, Rytec. It has operated since 2007, manufacturing gas motor equipment and vehicles. We manufacture KAMAZ, Ural, Lotus vehicles. We implement joint projects. One of our cars was presented at the forum, so you can see it with your own eyes. I believe it's one of the achievements we made. These are the trends already highlighted. So we have our plan for LNG development, and in May this year, our government adopted a concept of LNG market development in Tatarstan till 2025, so that we have to develop the infrastructure and build plants and fuel stations, and also convert more cars into LNG, other equipment as well, high tonnage equipment, agricultural equipment, and so on. Currently, we are building 2 LNG plants, one by Topgas, 12,000 tons per year is its capacity. In 2022, it will be launched, and the other one is LNG technology, also 12,000 is its capacity. This year, we'll launch the plant, and 2 more plants will be constructed by Rytec company, 40,000 tons per year, to be launched in 2023, and Novatek plans to start building a plant in 2024. This year, in May, a cryo fuel station was launched by Novatek in Nabережные Челны. This allowed logistics companies to start shipment from Moscow to Chelyabinsk, Magnitogorsk. So we plan to build 17 more cryo fuel stations, and we plan to increase the number of vehicles working with LNG. It will create more jobs and reduce emissions by several dozens of tons. Last year and this year, we are increasing the number of manufactured LNG vehicles. We've designed the first LNG excavator, also presented at the forum. Also, we've designed a gas motor version of a tractor. Yesterday, they were launched, put into production. Also, A tourist boat, Chaika, was transferred to Gazprom company. This boat was designed by our plant. Currently, it is already operating. We have no doubts that we have chosen the right path, and this fuel is a priority for the development of transport infrastructure.
And we will try to become the leader in Russia along those lines. Thank you very much. I'll take your questions, if any. Thank you, Marat. Dear colleagues, I would like to emphasize the fact that when we are discussing the development of NGV market, and Kazakhstan is one of the Russian Federation's subjects, it's a very good practice here. When we speak about NGV development, it's not about emissions reduction at transport and not about abatement of costs for transportation. It's about setting up a new industry whatsoever, and it's a great incentive for boosting up development of SMEs in the segment of transportation, refurbishment, service centers, and so on. All the authorities, governmental authorities around the world always perceive SME development as one of the priority tasks, sustaining economic growth and social justice. The development of NGV market, why do we refer to it as a unique instrument? Because it balances different SDGs development, because setting up new industry, opening new jobs means great support to businesses in your respective territories. We should have a comprehensive attitude to that. And then we'll see a plethora of potential effects and opportunities than it seems from the first glance. So we call upon you to get into a dialogue around this subject matter. Now I would like to give the floor to our colleagues from Kazakhstan. The subject matter of our seminar considers the potential of NGV development across CIS, and our colleagues from Kazakhstan will tell us about their plans for the development of Kazakhstan NGV market and maybe joint efforts we should do all together to develop along those lines. Talgat Aristenbayev, chairman of National GV Kazakhstan. Dear participants, I would like to convey the greetings from national operator in gas and gas supply of Kazakhstan Republic, and acknowledgements to UNECE, Madam Horankula and Brankamilic for inviting us to participate in this project on decarbonization of transport. I'm here to wish you well. The prerequisites of transition towards using natural gas as motor fuel are different in different countries. In South Korea and China, those were ecological factors. In Russia, it's about economical implications. In Kazakhstan, the situation was triggered by increased use of petroleum types of fuel and its shortfall, although it sounds paradoxical for oil and gas country, and hence the increase of rolling stock park and its depreciation. We needed new transport strategy related to scaling up consumption of gas of this type of fuel. by long distance hauliers. We decided to diversify the NGV market by natural gas in order to shift the deadlines for construction of new oil refinery to use what we have, so that it's possible to export petro products and to provide the long-distance hauliers with very reliable and cheap fuel. There was official governmental plan of different events, different activities to extend the use of natural gas as a gas motor fuel for the years 2019 until 2022. And also, I would like to say that in 2017, in October, Gazprom, an MOU was signed between Gazprom and Gas to use natural gas on the route Western Europe, Western China. There were two working groups formed, one joint working group, one ad hoc working group. This action plan took account of the provisions of an MOU signed, and there were KPIs such as construction of 85 different facilities, small tonnage factories for production of LNG, also for the production of liquefied and compressed natural gas up to 46 BCM for construction of specialized vehicles manufactured by domestic automotive sector. It was the principle of synchronization of gas and transportation sectors and local executive authorities in this plan to foster a benign environment for all the actors in NGV and development of technical regulations for development of NGV. In order to exercise measures of governmental support, financial stimuli, and also deduct from using NGV, which will not just offset the losses for the budget, but also will have a very good impact upon macroeconomic indicators for the country during the implementation of transportation strategy. The analysis of the current situation shows that we underperformed vis-à-vis our goals, but actually we had very small and short time span to start because it was all started in 2019 and then it was an onset of coronavirus. Current situation shows that underperforming versus the plan when it comes to bus depots and different other types of rolling stock. It was impacted by the global crisis, slump in the oil prices, and violation of the principles of synchronization. So everything was to be done simultaneously by different executive authorities. Construction of automatic compressor gas fillers sometimes were lagging behind the construction of other facilities because it also depended on subdivision of land plots for that construction, mindful of high density of developments and populations in the central parts. They should be paid back on investment. Only that way businessmen will find the project attractive. Same goes for large utilities companies who might do co-funding here. Only then there will be a boost up in the construction of the automatic compressor station gas fillers between Russia and China. NGV market should be boosted up. R&D should be done in order to demonstrate decision makers all the fact of NGV market progressing. But we were severely underfunded, so we couldn't do this feasibility study. Mindful of the protocol recommendations within tripartite working group on an MOU, and after the results of the discussions, a decision was made about the geographic vehicle manufacturing plants and automatic compressor station gas fillers. Mindful of the global trends about importance of low carbon economy in association with the company, which is the flagship of the Ministry of Ecology, Geology and Natural Resources of Kazakhstan, and it is a very green company. So we introduced the contributions into decarbonization of railroad and motorway transport. This is a very good cooperation effort. And also, it was related to the construction of economic belt. You know, this project, One Belt, One Road, One Belt. And also, we were aiming at reduction of hazardous emissions and deep mitigation of greenhouse gas emissions, and to take on board the governmental measures of state preferences and support. It is necessary to identify the fact that the association, under the auspices of Ministry of Energy, sent the letter to the Office of Prime Minister to implement measures of state support. This initiative was really approved, and the resolution was submitted to the intersectoral task force. Due to some changes in the composition of commissions, it was necessary to shift the date of discussions by the intersectoral commission. The effects from the project realization of methane production infrastructure will be here. That will increase GDP growth. That would reduce carbon tax upon the commodities. The transportation costs will be going down, and transportation will go by Silk Road. And we suggest mechanisms of formation of flows of vehicles consuming LNG. And we need the major companies which would show the example here. And the initial stage, we might cooperate on that with the Chinese People Republic in order to implement the potential of this major consumer. The borders should be crossed easily, but there are legal acts regulating passenger and cargo flows. There are international transportation corridors with specific deadlines of their launches, but they are not used as transit flows to go through the territory of Kazakhstan. There are several border crossing, and then there is the reloading of the goods upon other trucks to move through the territory of our country. We sent the query into the Department of Transportation Logistics of the Ministry of Infrastructural Development of Kazakhstan within convention frameworks. Shanghai Cooperation Organization countries should allow the goods to cross the borders. Now we are talking about the reduction of carbon footprint, so there should be NGV market developed, mindful of customs convention provisions. and Shanghai Cooperation Agreement provisions. We think that the transport flows going from Shanghai through territory of Kazakhstan will be developed further in future. And also, there are also transit movements of vehicles, and we are mitigating risks. We offer to set up a multinational company of China, Kazakhstan, and Belarus hauliers, and the vehicles should work on liquefied, on LNG, and there should be NGV vehicles, mindful of limitations of EU in point 1. That way, there will be high volumes of LNG consumption and will create the prerequisites and impetus for domestic hauliers and car manufacturers to transit to LNG. For implementation of mechanisms of formation of NGV market, we should do analytical research and studies of norms and rules and prepare the recommendations to introduce changes into them and to do the feasibility study. All that is necessary to get the confirmation from authorized agencies of our countries about the possibility to implement this mechanism. Transit flows going in through the borders should invite consulting companies and sectoral R&D centers of Russia, China, and Uzbekistan experienced along those lines, because it's necessary to confirm the flows of NGV vehicles and technical preparedness of the road and high throughput capacity of those routes. And there should be high quality of this research for IFIs. In order to conduct joint studies and have smooth interaction between the institutions, it's necessary to set up the organizational unit of international class. Kazakhstan party, in line with tripartite MOU, suggested Russian and Chinese sides to put together a roadmap for full-scale construction of automated gas filling stations across the country, and sectoral institutes should also do the research. The project should be given international status. That will mean that authorized governmental agencies of our countries will be engaged. International status will make it possible to have lavish funding. Mindful of the plans of the International Academy of Sciences of the Silk Route about the technological development of the Silk Route and geographic location of Kazakhstan, which makes it possible to support cargo flows between the three countries within the initiative One Belt, One Road, will have very important social and economic and environmental impact upon those countries. We should study more of those prospects of using LNG and CNG in order to attract more customers to this route. Europe, China for money, transit, automotive hauliers, raising funding from Global Ecological Fund for GF, Eurasian Bank, EBRD, and other financial institutions. We should study the intensity of movement of vehicles along this road and the share of vehicles consuming natural gas as motor fuel. Preparation of all the permits and documents in order to form the transit of NGVs and safe operations in order to enhance environmental and social effect of the countries using this Silk Route. We improve the transport strategy that way. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for a very interesting presentation and detailed proposals on the results of today's meeting. We might put together those proposals and then we'll turn to the top leaders of public joint stock company Gazprom to record the results of our discussions. It's very important to have organizational decisions. All the parties should be at par in those discussions. There should be full equality for us to develop along those lines, because as yet, when we speak about transportation, transport corridor, Europe, Western China, this corridor is developing not in the homogeneous way. And of course, we do have agreements between the parties, but there are some barriers to development. We should find one-stop shop, some mechanism to resolve all those issues. And after today's discussions, I think we'll return to that officially and we'll communicate this information to higher levels. We have got one more presentation by Daniil Marchenkov from Belarus. Daniil Marchenkov is Deputy General Director, Gazprom Transgas Belarus. They're also operating in this corridor, and they promote NGV market around the world. They make very spectacular results. They make very big strides forward along this way. So we should get to know about their great success. Daniil.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Sergey, thank you for high estimation. Assessment of my work. I see that the most resilient and motivated one are here in the audience. So I'll give you a couple of figures on the market today. In Belarus, the current situation and what we forecast for the future. Our network consists of 41 facilities, 27 stationary stations and 14 mobile fuel stations, traditional mobile fuel stations and compressor-free stations. So it's our own model of using stationary accumulating CNG facilities so that we can supply to our consumers exactly at the location points of equipment. We are a daughter company of Gazprom. We worked along the same lines, following the trends of our colleagues in the Russian Federation. So we are using mobile stations, as I said, and we use them not to fuel only transport vehicles only, but also to supply gas to our customers during repair time. So it's a kind of technical infrastructure part. So we are using it to fuel transport vehicles and to supply gas to our customers when pipeline in a particular place is under repair and we cannot supply gas via this. Last session, I heard a question about the reasons of these dynamics in Belarus. So I can tell you that today in Belarus, unlike Russia, we have no subsidies, no state support measures for LNG as fuel market development. On the one hand, the market is developing on its own. On the other hand, this model can help us predict the situation at a local market without any support measures. That's what we see in Belarus. The market is developing itself. So what have we done to contribute to the development? So, first of all, we are very careful about pricing policy. We see a growth trend in traditional fuel prices, and 2017-2018, at this period of time, our strategy was to freeze prices for CNG, traditional fuels. Every year became more and more expensive, and we stabilized our prices for CNG, thus sending a message to the economy saying that this is a stable fuel, we can get certain advantages using it. Here on the diagram, you see the CNG vehicles number growing during that period of time. So the message was received by private car sector and light commercial vehicles, taxis, private carriers, and also what helped us, that the market was formed due to CNG second-hand cars brought from Europe once. So people knew about methane, they were actively using it in these second-hand European cars. So as soon as the message was on the market, retrofitting tools became available, and private clients and taxi fleets seized the opportunity to convert their vehicles. So, except for freezing prices, we were active in marketing, we participated in different events and exhibitions, and we organized different races. So we popularized the idea and developed the image of our brand in Belarus. So what is the result of our efforts? These are the main figures. Last year, the increase was 63% in 1 year. This growth was obtained without any budget subsidies or market operators, so this is a completely spontaneous effect of the market development. In 2 years, we've grown more than twice. At the forum, I was closely watching my colleagues from Tatarstan, and I spoke to them, and I see that these local market capacities are very much similar in our two countries. In Tatarstan, they are developing infrastructure quite actively, and local equipment manufacturers are well supported if they use the local natural gas, and we, using our infrastructure, loading it, attracting new clients, are able to show this positive dynamics. In 2021, we make our forecasts very careful. In future, we plan to have 61 million per year, but I think that this number can change a little bit in those directions under current conditions. As of now, we are exceeding the trends of 2020. As for the main contributing segment, it's taxi. The biggest growth was seen here. We even cannot supply enough of what they demand. This year and last year, we are facing such problem as queues at fuel stations. So I believe that some of the tools used by the Russian market operator, Gazprom Gas Motor Fuel, will come to Belarus and we'll be able to deploy them. Special attention should be given to our experience of cooperating with agricultural manufacturers and organizations. We started to work with them at the end of 2016, beginning 2017. Gomsilmash company, equipment manufacturer, was our partner. At that time, it was rather experimental engineering work. We attempted to design the first gas motor combine in the world. Those who participate at these forums know that in 2018 we brought this equipment to demonstrate its form. So quite recently we had a pilot test of the machine. We worked in the field. We tried to test fueling processes, and we worked with customers, consumers, and then active development started, and nowadays it is developing quite spontaneously. Sometimes we even have to halt this development. So in 2018 we manufactured one, in 2019 there were already 7, in 2020 there were 27 vehicles, and this year we have 39 working and 10 more are to be launched very soon, so about 50 are available. So before coming to forum, we talked to the manufacturer and the Gomelsky administration. They asked us to make 100 more vehicles. They want to disseminate this good practice to other regions. So now we're facing different tasks: how to improve the efficiency of fueling of these vehicles, how to improve cooperation between different stakeholders. I believe that next year, when harvesting, we will invite all the interested stakeholders so that they can see it with their own eyes, working in the field, and maybe some of them will bring their own models or will recommend something, because such events allow us to exchange ideas and technical solutions, develop locally in different markets. And talking about our company, I have to say that as any daughter company of Gazprom, we try to be a role model in using natural gas as motor fuel for our customers. 70% of our cars use CNG, about 120 vehicles in our company run on methane. Transport corridors have been mentioned today. It's yet another challenge for us. in neighboring regions, they're also working on this. We are lagging behind a little bit. We understand that there is a risk of becoming a bottleneck in creating these international transportation corridors today. It's clear that it involves M1 highway and another one going through the border with Poland. It's closed for CNG. However, it is possible as for LNG. We have a number of ideas and business projects, technological projects, which are on the work, but they are not prepared yet. They are not ready to be presented to the markets yet. So there's pre-designs, some marketing evaluations, and some joint projects with partners and local projects, but I believe that in the nearest time we will have to cooperate. All the stakeholders will have to work together in order to foster closing international transportation corridors, and will find additional stimuli to bring together all the local projects into one large-scale transportation corridor project. And we will be able to use political tools to promote it further on, and some economic stimuli, so that such kind of projects can be implemented in the rearest time. That's all with me. Daniel Veniaminovic, thank you so much. Indeed, from the CIS countries today, the most active have been those who are involved into the Europe-China Transportation Corridor project. We'll continue to discuss the topic beyond this session and in Kazakhstan and in Belarus. So we are inviting all the interested parties to discuss it with us. And now I would like to give the floor to Branko Milišević, who represents the UN Commission. So let's have an open discussion, and then we will finalize our seminar.
Today, a lot of information, but somehow we did not have time to really talk more and maybe hear questions. So now it's the time. We don't have speakers with us, but still we'll try to answer your questions. I think the central question we should answer here is, we all heard about how gas is good in transport, yet we all know the market share of gas is very tiny. There are a lot of barriers, and we list here regulatory, technical, public perception, and so on. So the purpose of this short brainstorming discussion is how can we overcome those barriers and how we can learn one country from the other and exchange those experiences and thus accelerate increasing the share of gas. So with this, I would like to ask anybody who wants to open discussion here over these barriers, please.
Thank you very much. I think it's a very vital question which you've actually asked here, which can be the cornerstone of today's session as I see it. In my opinion, Vasily Zinyan's presentation partially gives a reply to that question, and that is that we all need to really step up on the gas advocacy on transport, and also using the such an arguments that we are not only speaking, when we are speaking about the natural gas vehicles, we're not only speaking of mere economy for this or that particular vehicle, or for this or that entity which operates the fleets of vehicles. But we're speaking of many other tasks at hand which fall under the sustainable development. As I've just also mentioned when I was up at the panel, that, well, by my calculations, the NGV is, to this or that extent, is responsible for reaching 11 out of 17 targets of sustainable development. Vasily, he had a bit of a different kind of a wording in that, at least 8, to which I would also agree. So my reply is that we need to explain to the public and to step up this thesis that when we're speaking about using natural gas as a motor fuel, it provides economy not only for the user but for the entire economy. It does develop the infrastructure. It does develop the health issues within the society. It gives a more accessible transport, and therefore it allows for more of a equality and so on and so forth. And the last thing, I do believe that we need to somehow to think what we are supposed to do with the hypocrisy, which we're, sorry for using such a harsh word, that we're seeing in terms of, for example, of electric vehicles, that they are not counting when we're a lot of people promoting electric vehicles. They're not mentioning the tailpipe emissions. They're not speaking of a life cycle. Exactly. Turning back also to the report of Vasily there. And this is a totally wrong situation. It should be at least highlighted that that is the case, that there's something which is not being told to the public, but which should be revealed. I believe that we need an electric vehicle coming out. Thank you.
It's nicely put.
Надо сделать
Analysis today, if you recall, we heard that if you use 28% of biomethane in a gas car, the overall life cycle cradle-to-grave emissions are actually comparable of the electric vehicles. Another issue I see here is that when we say natural gas vehicles, when people mean gas-powered vehicles, in many countries they think about LPG, liquefied petroleum gas, or propane, butane. And this also requires a lot of attention in terms of people's perception and understanding, because this is not the same. It's just light gasoline, light petrol. Any other comment, question?
Can I add one more argument? I think I absolutely agree with Mikhail, but what else we need to mention is in all this, a lot of speech about that ecology, environment, decarbonization, etc., but everybody counts money. And we need to recognize for each country, for each society, if we talk about the beautiful picture of the future, who will pay for this beautiful picture of the future? Who will pay in form of energy tariffs, in form of transportation tariffs, in form of taxes? It doesn't matter. But do the people exactly want to pay from their own salaries, their own incomes for this picture of the future? In these terms, of course, natural gas is the only, as we told before, is the only way, is an only alternative fuel that allows not only to decrease emissions, but also to decrease cost and to make it more favorable, more competitive. So that's really important point, I think.
I am Evgeny Pronin.
Russia is the lack of regulation regarding some certain areas of NGV vehicles. And it's very important for us now. For example, we don't have any regulations for buildings for technical maintenance. We don't have some regulations for LNG stations. Not absolutely, but partially. So from my side is the request to respective organization, which is sitting now in the presidium. Please let us organize the exchanging of this information regarding the legislation from Europe, from other countries overseas. So it will be very useful for our country.
Thank you. We had a workshop here a few days ago on hydrogen, and I mentioned the fact that instead of the old iron curtain, željezni zanaves, now we have ugljerodni zanaves. And it's going to be complicated to do the trade, to, so to speak, penetrate, to go through this curtain because of different perceptions in different parts of Europe. The green part, the blue part, you can call it any way you like, but it literally goes almost on the same location where the old iron curtain used to be. So there is a role for gas to play in vehicles. But our next activity, by the way, will be, we plan a workshop in January, possibly in Belgrade, Serbia. This is my hometown. And we chose January precisely because this is the worst possible month in terms of air pollution. There are a lot of lignite power plants. There is a lot of traffic, mostly on diesel. The majority of even cars are diesel, let alone trucks and buses. And we would like to make a nice point. What if you switch public transportation fleet from diesel to gas? What can possibly happen? And not only Serbia, but there are other countries in that part of the world that face more or less the same situation, which is bad coal or lignite for electric generation, a lot of diesel in transportation, and provides an enormous opportunity for natural gas to demonstrate the case. Anybody else? Madam Yudina.
Добрый день, коллеги.
Dear colleagues, I have got sort of international question for international representatives because we have convened international representatives here. My question is for colleagues from Kazakhstan and Belarus. When Unece turned to us with a proposal to implement this project, first of all, gearing towards CIS countries, we wanted to support it. But I have a question. How do you see for yourselves the value of some projects or some research? Maybe what should be most important in future about those projects? Could they be practically interesting for you, such projects and green projects? Thank you for your question. In my presentation, I have demonstrated that for Kazakhstan Republic, transportation transit strategy is very important when it comes to economics and implementation of this project will increase GDP, but there are some risks as well that we might lose this transit direction because there are some alternative ways as well. So we would like, within the working group, I mean, as I've said, with Gazprom company and our company to foster benign conditions and environment for Shanghai Cooperation Agreement countries, because transition to LNG and CNG will reduce transportation costs, will reduce the cost of production, and on top of everything, it's about being more environmentally friendly, and it's about reduction of carbon tax for those commodities and goods which would go by this transportation route via Kazakhstan, Russia, Belarus. It's international route, but if they use NGV, that will reduce carbon footprint. Secondly, the very impetus of the development of this international transport corridor and its gasification on the whole will provide with a good impetus for the development of other regions which are not gasified yet, because this technology will enable to transport LNG to the places remotely located from gas pipelines. I guess I'll join up with what my colleagues say. The only thing is that and I would like to underscore that as well, that today we have been discussing different things. On the one hand, we refer to the development of domestic country markets, whereby we can do everything on our own account, put together our toolkits and give it a try. But everything which is related to international transport corridors, it's the story when one man is no man. We should do it in joint efforts. We cannot possibly create one local site and we would say we'll do everything for this international transport corridor. We should go hand in hand. We should synchronize our efforts, which is especially important in the current situation. If we observe what is happening in the markets, and we are aware of lots of challenges which hover over us in this market. Those challenges are unparalleled, and we haven't dealt with them previously. Now it's the moment of great test and the moment of truth. We'll see whether we'll be able to carry through with this trend for development and improvement. And I think that it can only be done through joint endeavor when different elements of economy are not detached but attached. Transport is the backbone of countries' economy and inter-country relationships. We should display comprehensive effect aimed not at this or that segment of market participant or stakeholder, but it would be gearing towards environmental, technological, and other effects in the scope of the entire region, not just one country alone, or maybe we'll transcend the boundaries of one region. It could be done only through joint efforts, and thanks to venues like the one which helps us to communicate today. Thank you very much for this project. It's great and it's very good that we develop our dialogue. Let me recap on that. We do not reinvent the wheel. In 2012, there was a project of model highway based on customs convention, and these studies were made. Many countries participated in those projects, about 5 countries at least, and Central Asian regions countries, Shanghai Cooperation Organization countries, and CIS, and the fund was put together by EBRD, and it was financing this research and study. And we suggest we should actualize the deliverables of that survey. We should identify from this gas transport flow the mechanism, the vehicle which would expedite the promotion of NGV market.
Nadezhda, would you like to tell us about our plans for Kazakhstan, end of November, please?
Thank you. Do you hear me? Microphone. As Branko just mentioned, we have, in addition to the project that we're implementing, thanks to the funds provided by the Russian Federation, we would like to also implement on the top of this a smaller, let's say we call it kind of pilot project in Kazakhstan that would include, in addition to the research provided for all member states, to provide something more deeper for at the national level. At the request from colleagues from the Kazakhstan that we received earlier this year, we responded to this request, and We plan to organize the workshop. We hope it will be in the end of November, and we can confirm this. And where we will discuss the perspectives of the development of this market in Kazakhstan and what exactly is needed to be done in Kazakhstan in order to move forward with the situation of the NGV market. And also we plan to engage in the studies that will look into environmental, economic and social effects from moving to natural gas in the transport sector, in particular for Kazakhstan, and also on the harmonization of the technical regulations, again, for Kazakhstan. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? Or if not, I think we can conclude this roundtable discussion. And more or less, I think we are ready to conclude the whole, unless Ms. Yudina would like to say something. I have no comments. I think I talked enough, too much, I would say. So, please.
Можно я добавлю?
Let me say a few words. Thank you very much, Madam Madici Hamarkulova. It's just great that Unece supports Kazakhstan technically as well. We plan to have this workshop in November with the support of European Mission of UN. There will be the round table in Kazakhstan. I would like to invite all those who are interested, all the stakeholders. It's going to be very useful exercise because that all means technical support and political support, very powerful political support as well, so that we would be able to invite all the stakeholders from NGV market, businesses, governmental authorities, because the development of NGV markets depends on governmental support as well. We hope it will be a very serious support, and authorized agencies will give us a helping hand with just facilitation of this project, mindful of the state support. This is about abatement of greenhouse gases emissions and so on. And our officials, our decision makers, they don't quite understand what does it mean to reduce the emissions of CO2 in carbon equivalent in the amounts. They say, show us in the market, show us how it would impact gross value added, or how will it impact GDP. Decision makers understand more those financial figures, and actually they're fearful of just channeling money from the budget into something they don't quite understand. Thank you. I hope you'll participate in our seminar in November.
Women are to have the last word, so we have Olga Nikolaevna, пожалуйста.
Коллеги, добрый день.
Colleagues,
Сегодняшнее мероприятие, поэтому
I'm honored to sum up today's event. I will be brief. On behalf of the Ministry of Energy, I would like to thank the European Economic Commission of the UN for implementing the projects, and I'd like to congratulate you on the successful presentation and the study we have learned about today when the European UN Committee offered this project for gas motor fuel. We perceived it as a very significant political signal. It means that in the UN, not only renewable and green energy is discussed and focused upon, but also natural gas, which is so important for us and other countries in the perimeter of the UN European Commission. Today we have mentioned a lot of times that only joint work, only cooperation will allow us to solve all of the difficulties of the gas motor fuel market. One of the most obvious questions is popularization of our natural gas, which is environmentally friendly and energy efficient. If you join our efforts, we will get these low-hanging fruits very soon if you start popularizing this fuel. Maybe Gazprom, you will invent a kind of analog of Tesla so that natural gas becomes a popular fuel, so that people are willing to use it, to use these cars. All this will improve our chances to develop the market. And to finalize, I would like to say the following. A couple of minutes ago, our colleague from Belarus said that today we are facing the challenges. First of all, the climate agenda and all the related issues. I think natural gas is not a separate thing from this agenda. We are working at the same platform. Natural gas has its own niche to occupy. Other energy sources they have their own niches. So we all have to work together in our areas. Those countries which are not on the market yet do not know. They're hesitating whether to develop this topic or not. Maybe to jump into renewables immediately. We are working with Egypt and the other countries. We realize that these countries are ready. They understand that natural gas is here in place and they can use it right away. As for renewables, it's a long way to go. So those who are still hesitating, please make up your mind soon. Natural gas is a mid-time perspective. Don't be afraid. Russia has a vast experience and we are ready to help. We can provide all the recommendations and consultations and share our experience of building this market in our country. Thank you once again, and thank again to the organizers for a wonderful event. Thank you. Signora Baron.
Thank you very much for inviting me here. It was very interesting. I just want to say something. In the last 30 years, at the beginning, gas was a gypsy man fuel 30 years ago. Then it became a poor man fuel. I spent all this time to bring gas to become a smart man, smart woman fuel. But still, we are a poor fuel, because if we look to other fuels, fossils, or let's take LPG, oil, and diesel, and now also electricity. They have a lots amount of money for communication, for studies, for research. We have nothing. We have problem to do convention. We have problem to invite people. So I think that if we really want to do something for gas, for natural gas, we have to really look at the portfolio and the pocket. If you go LPG, they do extremely great business, extremely great communication, which we cannot do, not only Italian, but all around the world. Sometimes I find problem with other NGVs to pay just a little fee and to do something because they have no money. So please, this is one of the big problems, especially against electricity. In Europe, we have an association, society, yes, a company called TNE. They spent really 100,000, I would say, million euros in research. They are probably pushed by the Chinese because they promote, of course, EV and this kind of energy. But we have to do something also for CNG. We have to find some generous people who say gas is very important, natural gas, and, well, it has to be treated not like a poor man fuel, but really like a smart man fuel, and to do that. Thank you very much. That's my last request to this world. Thank you.
Thank you, Signora Baron. At current prices, it's actually rich man's fuel, but we'll see. So I think we brought this to an end. Thank you for attention. Thank you for coming, and hope to see you again, hopefully next year in the same venue. Good day to all.
Спасибо, коллеги. Кофе-брейк.
Thank you, dear colleagues. You can continue coffee break in the same hall. So let's continue our discussion on the margins of our conference.